अपनी कहानी छोड़ जा, कुछ तो निशानी छोड़ जा। कौन कहे इस ओर, फिर तू आए ना आए। धरती कहे पुकार के, बीज बना ले प्यार के, मौसम बीता जाए। These are the wonderful lines by Shailendra, great poet Shailendra, and he had written it for Do Biga Zameen. Do Biga Zameen was done none other than the genius, the maestro, Bimal Roy. And this original story is about the migration of East and West, in Bengal. And it's the writer of this the story, the original writer, it has been adopted from Rabindranath Tagore's lines. You're watching Sheetanath Conversations, 7 p.m. evening weekend show. Welcome to yet another 78th illustrious, historic, engaging conversation. Once again, I feel I take the privilege to transpose you uh, to the myth and enlightenment of recognized sense, pondering our perspicacious yarn that is spread on the Saipan bequest across this wonderful land nestled in the majestic Indian Himalayas. Till now, this meandering was so wonderful. We're encountering hues, colorful, multi shaded hues of bygone eras, bygone time spots. That's how it has been. And certainly, this was riveted by, riveted through heart to heart anecdotes narrated by the eminent people through the wonderful, evocative, and candid recalls. Having said so, I would like to once again, I was just brooding over it. Kashmir has a legacy, it has a civilization of around 5,000 years old. Our first queen was Yashomati, which was coronated by Lord Krishna. Over the years, with the change of millennias, with the change of millennia, the, the, the splendor, the grace, the cultural, exuberance has met with more and more better diversified dimensions, diversified colors. When we talk in terms of language, I think language in Kashmir, like rest part of the world, other parts of the world, has gone through a sea change in its dimensions because the influences, invasions, and many, many other things, geographical changes. There are certain things which are very sacred with the nature, how a language develops. Coming to the near past, as Kashmiri language is spoken today, I think the harbinger of this present day language is the 13th century, 14th century poetess, mystic poetess, Lalita. She spoke with lucidity. She was not only the poetess, she belonged to the mysticism of Shaivism. She was a Shiv Sadhika and she belonged to the Vasugupt Parampara. But she spoke to the common man in the lucid language, in the raw language. And it reflected the aroma of the fields, aroma of the peasants, aroma of the toil, aroma of the sweat. So she is the tallest pinnacle, she is the beacon, she is the lighthouse house of this present day Kashmir, present Kashmir. Her name, it is at a very, very high, lofty, uh, I mean, show, so lofty heights. She wrote Vaks and Vatsans, and Vaks and Vatsans, through Vaks and Vatsans, she evocated many, many meanings, many, many preachings. She had many dimensions. She was a sociologist, she was a preacher, she was a saint. Followed by that, there was another great personality. that was Nundrish. Nundrish was the patron of indigenous spirituality known as Rishi Parampara. He wrote wonderful shruks and further decorated this language. These words were very original. They were from the soil. They did have then exotic influences. And then moving on, we had Mata Rupa Bhavani. Mata Rupa Bhavani wrote very sophisticatedly. She was very well-read personality of her times. But then she wrote about the esoteric, dimensions, esoteric poetries. It reflected many aspects of Oriental wisdoms. And then we had Haba Khatun, who wrote for the king. She wandered in love and melancholy on the fields of Kashmir. Her language further exuberated over language. It enriched Kashmiri language. Her contribution of melancholy is immense. And same as with Arnimal, those were the very bestial, dark times of Afghan rulers when her husband was away and society was stagnated, and it was all negative things around, and she got into trouble, and she reflected her agony through the pathos, through those poetries, and those poetries have the marvel of wordology, Kashmiri wordology, indigenous wordology. We had Wahab Khar and many other people who talked about the Samanway, this bridge between Kashmir Shaivism and the Kashmiri Shaiv philosophy and the Sufi philosophy. They saw wonderful, highly evolved songs of spirituality, which are remembered till date, and it ushered into an era where all the darkness of the past was left behind, and all were equal, all had the singular identity. And there were many other people. I can't name everyone here because today's subject is not all about it. But we can say that all these wonderful people, even Rasul Mir, who wrote romantic poetries. His genre was slightly different. So, Parmanand wrote about the Shiva Leelas, devotional songs. Passing of this century and the advent of 20th century saw a personality like Mahjur, who was in love with his land, who was a romantic, who had the romantic outburst about this land, his place. He talked about the fields, he talked about the color, he talked about it was all romantic poetry exuberating his motherland and his motherland, Kashmir. And then finally came a personality whom we call the era man, the Renaissance man, the phenomena, who revolutionized Kashmiri to the dimensions of experimentation, wide dimensions of experimentation as was happening around the world, yet maintaining its identity, yet maintaining its indigenous. His poetry didn't have a single word which was aborted, which was imported from outside. It was indigenous, uncorrupted, virgin. He wrote wonderful poetries about hope. He was a poet of hope because he was a socialist. And socialism was fashionable in those days. It gave a new zenith of life to the modern Kashmir. And his poetries were uh, pregnant and fragrant with wonderful songs and fields and essences and scents of the dragonflies, butterflies, the fields, the people, the joy. And then came this era, this I can call it the Nadim era. People may be sparingly using their words, but I say openly that it was the Nadim era which continued. Rahman Rahi and Amin Kamil and many other poets, and later on, even Master Jugal Koul was a legend in his own way. We are discussing the poetries, we are not discussing the personalities. And then gradually we can find that Motilal Saki ji and other great people, Roshan and other people, they wrote. What unfortunately happened at the end of this century, at the beginning of this 21st century, there is a flood of people who want to write and who want to become the celebrities. What they are doing, they are infesting Kashmiri with the heavy Persian words, heavy Persian syntax. This has not been so previously. Even Persian is a great language. It was the language of courtiers in India. In Dogra Empire also they used the court language was Persian. But And Persian was also used by these brute conquerors, these Mongols, dirty warlords, brutal Mongols. They became eloquent because of Persian. Persian was so eloquent. It belonged to Iran. Iran has a history. It is a wonderful. It had a civilization like India, and then the Turks, the tribals of Turks, they use this language. So Persian is a great language. I have nothing, no difference about it. But using Persian in India, we can see all the languages. Uh, we go through the synthesis. The fresh rivulets come, they mix on with us. We go through the synthesis. But you know, replacing the entire ideology is very, very disrespect to your motherland. It is very disrespect to the spirit of the great souls, starting from Lalishwari, who were the harbingers of this language. And not only those, the entire native people of Kashmir. So, as a concern, as a literature myself, I am very much concerned about this aspect. Today, we are going to, you must be knowing that a few weeks ago, we started a series, the maestros, unsung maestros of 20th century in Kashmir, and in that spirit and that continuation of that series, we are just today talking about life and times of a great contemporary poet, Radhey Nath Masarat. His life, his times, his poetry. It is said that his poetry is unadulterated, uncorrupted, indigenous. It has the fragrance of the soil of Kashmir, and he has never used any foreign word to accommodate his expression in the poetry. So he is among the very few people who still maintain that order which started by Nadim Saab, Rahman Rahi, and earlier people as well. Masarat Saab is a very wonderful personality. He has predominantly, information I have gathered till now, he has wrote in free verse. And he has also written devotional songs. And basically, he has been influenced by, as I've heard in some article, he is influenced by Lalishwari and the later poets, even Nundaresh and then Rupa Bhavani. And certainly in the contemporary times, he has been inspired by Nadim Saab. Who cannot be inspired by Nadim Saab, Rahman Rahi, Amin Kamil? He has been in associate with them. I don't know how that will be explaining during the descent of this program. And but one thing about him is that despite of this, he has never tried to flaunt his genius of poetic genius. He's tried to be always on the ground, remain subdued, and he has loved the anonymity. And while as his poetry it penetrates deep, it bounces deep into the subconscious of the person who reads his poetry or who listens to his poetry. He has a very, very different genre, and it has been. I wish that it could have been given the same prestige and respect when he was alive. Today we can say everybody is talking about Masarat. So I'm a theatre critic. I'll put some line which will be controversial, but that's what it is. And I feel that he was also a very well-read personality who has been self-taught, and he knew many languages very well. He has read the entire literature, foreign literature, Indian literature, and he even knew the Arabian and Sanskrit very deeply. He has a very deep study of Arabian and Sanskrit. Radhey Masrat will always be remembered somebody. It is said that his place in Kashmir, because he had a merchant, this outlet in Kashmir in Rainawari, where he finally became an affluent businessman. But at the same time, it was a place, it was a kind of a bathak, a nook for literati of that places, artists of that places, and the progressive movement was on at that time. They all used to gather there, and it must have had effect on his poetry. Probably reflects many dimensions, from romanticism to the mother nature to the fiddling of nature by the human mindset, present day human mindset, which fiddles with the nature, challenges, social challenges, cultural subversion. I mean, about all other aspects like the flora and fauna and pathos and the satire and many things we don't. I have heard is one devotional song by sung by none other than Tibat Bakal, the great legend. I've heard that it's way back around 55, 1955. That's much, much before we were born. And such a wonderful, devoted, subdued, low profile, great artist, native artist, has remained with us in Kashmir Valley. And today, certainly, we are going to talk about all aspects of his personality. But something I would like to say that when this horrendous migration happened, all of us were disconnected by the roots, by the civilization, the great civilization, and it was something of a very unique onslaught in this world. But Masarat Saab suffered more, which the stories which I've input into my program and I researched about him, is that he because he lost his business in Kashmir, he had to survive in the hostile environment in those dingy camps, hostile camps, where he struggled to penury. There was nobody who would come and stand for Masarat until finally he was reinvented as a broadcaster. He was a wonderful broadcaster. His voice is so good. I really loved his voice. He has a very wonderful voice. He became a broadcaster and he was an editor, and he had also given talks. And finally, he was bitter. It reflected in his poetry. But at the end of the day, he was a man of a very towering personality who, as information flown in into Shitamath Conversations studio and research team, he was the man of great vision and positivity. He was a very optimistic personality. Today, we are very fortunate that we have with us his, esteemed daughter, Veena Lidhoo ji, in our studio. And it is her magnanimity. She has visited to talk about her father. So let's see how she makes us walk through lifetimes and poetry, great poetry, poetic substance of this great personality, Masarat, which is in talk nowadays everywhere. So let's, with great reverence and affection, invite this Veena Lidhuji into studio. Welcome her into the studio. Vinaji, you're welcome into Sheetalnath Conversation, 78th Illustrious Historic Show.
Thank you so much,
Pranams,
sir. Namaskar, sabko,
pranams and namaskar. And
everyone.
it's
Uh,
great pleasure that you have finally come to talk about
Thank you
this
so
great
much.
personality, your father, Masarat Saab.
Thank you so much. First of all, my handful pranams to you for having taken this initiative. And especially when it comes to talking about my father, it is something very, very precious to me. And it has kindled a ray of hope in my mind that what has not been done for so many years, such a long time, which he did not initiate himself or like himself, has been taken up by you and your good effort. And congratulations for this
Thanks.
beautiful initiative. And this is going definitely to be a historical program. Not only for this generation but in the coming generations, because you are taking the roots of our culture far, far further in future. And definitely you'll be remembered for this beautiful initiative. And congratulations once again. And thanks for making me part of this program. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Veena ji. It's again a
Everyone.
pleasure. I feel so delighted and happy you besides me into the studio. And before we begin, first of all, before we talk about this phenomenon known as Masarat, indigenous poet of Kashmir, uh, let's talk about yourself. You have been in Kashmir probably before up to migration. You were there, and you studied in
Yes.
probably Kashmir University, and your schooling was done there, colleging was done there. Your father held a business in Srinagar, but you had a connection somewhere in the Shupian and other places. And tell us
Yeah.
something about this enriching landscape which you encountered during your childhood. How was the social landscape? How were the people? How were the rituals? How were the traditions? How was the Nadi, the river? How was the bustle, the affluence, the color? Let's know
Sh-
through Veenaji what Kashmir was all about through her binocular. Please.
Sure, sure, sir. Sir, Kashmir is very close to my heart, very near me. And I have always been a worshiper and I feel cut off from my roots. I was born in a small village, the village of Zanapora by name, and it had a beautiful surrounding. There were thousands of springs. It was called the land of springs, our village, because almost in every near every home, every neighborhood, there used to be a spring, and there was a beautiful river flowing. We used to go for a swim there in the river, and we used to enjoy the beautiful games as young children during the twilight hours. And the most important thing that I miss about my village is the way we used to enjoy snowfall.
Oh,
When
that's
it
great.
was the time, it was the winter time, we just had some there was chilly wind, there was very cold winds, and in the early morning when we would get up, we'd see everything covered with snow. There was snow on the trees, there were the paths, there were the river beds, there were the vegetable fields. Everything was covered with snow, and that rendered a beautiful excitement to us as children that I'll
Oh,
never forget and I'll always remember.
wonderful.
Right? And anything that is and some
Yes,
more
yes,
things that I
you
would
can continue about Kashmir. How did you celebrate life, and how were the festivals, and how was your relationship with the neighbors, and where did you go?
show.
What was your escape hour as a children? Where did you run? What were the
Okay,
fields? Tell us something about all these
right,
aspects. We'd love to listen.
sure. Yeah. Different festivals celebrated in our village, they were out of this world. I recollect some of them. One of them was what we did during the winter, when the winter was coming to an end, and we would, it was a ritual that we have to collect all those broken things. Maybe there are some pots, there are some pitchers, are some sandals, there are some mats which are to be discarded, and we would
Oh,
tie them in a big rope and hang that by the side of our room, this house, and that was to be dragged by every child of the family to a
oh,
particular place where we would just shatter them against a tree. So that is a beautiful memory comes back to my mind. And one thing more definitely I would like to share: after Shivratri, we used to burn the fires with a hay. There was a
oh,
bundle of hay. It was
okay.
tied to a big stick, right? And it was set on fire. It was done by all the children of the village. And in the evening, when it was dark totally, there were some children running from this side to that side. That was called the Frozalon. And it
Oh,
was most cherished activity that I will definitely miss always. And I wish I could ever get a chance to visit it again, celebrate it again, or witness that again, which is out of question now, I think.
school. You had school. How was the? I mean, was there any patriarchy or the gender bias while sending women to the school? How was the school?
Uh, yes, we had a government primary school for girls in our village, and I attended that primary school first, and there was a government. There were no private schools. There was a government high school that was co-education. The girls would go there after class 6.
Oh,
Yes, I was sent to school, and I attended the high school also. But when it came to my college education, I completed my class 10th from my village only, and
okay.
I got a first division there. It was a celebration time because mostly it was thought, okay, has she passed it in the first chance? Passing a matriculation the first chance in our village was a big achievement, and
That's a
I
great.
had a first division, right?
Oh, that's a great. That's a
So
great. Yeah.
and my father, he was a visionary. He had foresight, and he valued education, and he wanted to send me to school, but it was against the norms of the village. No girl had attended college till then, so
Okay.
I was restricted. I was compelled to study class 11th privately. I was not permitted to attend college.
Hmm.
So here I would definitely have all regards, praise, and love for my dear father. What did he do? He abandoned everything in the village. He left behind his property, his orchards, his fields. We had animals. Everything was abandoned. He said, "No, you have to
Stubble.
attend a college.
You had
I
horses?
will."
Had you horses
No, no,
also?
no.
Only cows?
Horses were there. Or we
Okay.
had cows.
Okay.
Horses were there when my father was married. I would like to just cite that anecdote as well.
Yes, please,
And
please, please.
just uh, about horses,
Yes, yes, you can. Please,
sh-
please.
yeah, that is when my father was married. Because since you mentioned horses, I would
Mm,
definitely love to mention it. When my father was married,
mm,
entire Bharat proceeded. We belong to village Zanapura, right?
mm.
From village
Okay.
Zanapura, the Bharat proceeded for Akran. Akran was
Mm.
where my mother belonged to, and
Okay.
entire Bharat proceeded on horses. So it
Okay.
was December, 6th of December 1957, and it
Okay.
was snowing too much. The roads were blocked, and it was very cold. The
Mm,
Bharat had to stay back for 3 days. And my father used to narrate this, that entire village of Akran, Hindus as well as Muslims,
mm.
they extended maximum hospitality not only to the people but to the horses as well. And they were fed well. They were given the best possible feed they could get. So you mentioned horses, so I just it came to my mind that
The-
I should mention
There
this
was
thing
a
also.
stubble culture in Kashmir. I've also heard stubble where horses are kept. So there was a
Yeah,
special place, yeah, in a home. Yeah.
yeah. We had cows, but we did not have horses as such in the home.
Okay.
Yes,
So then
I
you
would like. Yes,
please,
please.
please, please continue. Please continue.
Yes,
Please don't
yes.
stop.
Yes, I would like to mention the walnut trees we had. We had many walnut trees,
Mm.
and collecting the walnuts when they were harvested. It
Okay.
was a fun. Walnut trees are very. I hope you have seen a walnut tree.
Yes,
It
yes,
is
yes.
very
I have
big.
been there.
It's very
I was
tall.
in Kashmir. Yeah. Yeah.
And there would be we would just hire somebody to climb a big tree with a long stick, and just he will thrash those walnuts down. There was a stream flowing, and all the walnuts, they would just start flowing in water. And
Oh,
children, we and the children of our neighborhood, they would rush and try to collect those walnuts from the water, and just have the big heaps. There were the tons and tons of walnuts that
oh, that's
I can't see now. That is a beautiful memory. And regarding walnuts, I have something else. Early morning, my brother Bharat and
Mm,
we used to go for collecting walnuts, because during night when the walnuts come out of the shells,
mm.
they are quite loose and they fall by some wind or something. And in the early morning, there was a competition who will
Okay.
collect how many walnuts. And my younger brother Sanjay, he did not get up very early, so mama used a small bag for him, and she kept some walnuts for him. Okay, I have this for you. And
Mm.
that used to be our property when there was the trader who just bought the walnuts, because we had a good amount of walnuts and we sold them. And we sold our own share, which we had collected early morning. That was
Okay.
our property, and that was our money.
That's
That
wonderful.
was something very special.
Yes. And then you moved to Srinagar. You went to the college and joined Women's College Srinagar. You want to tell
Right,
something
sir.
more about the village? Yeah, you can.
Yes, there are some so pure, deep, and passionate memories of my village.
Yes,
You can't
please.
believe that for almost more than 20 years, the
Mm.
location of my dreams was my village. Even in Delhi, after
Mm.
migration, I couldn't dream of any other place. In my dreams, I was in Delhi, no doubt, but in
Okay,
dreams, the location of the dreams was same, my village. So that is how my village, my Kashmir is in my blood, in my soul. It hasn't
that's it.
left ever and will continue to be so.
That's so wonderful. And finally, you went to Srinagar, and then you joined your
Right.
father. And tell us about Srinagar, what you saw in Srinagar, how did you witness Valley of Kashmir, the
Yeah,
locality? Yeah.
yes. Srinagar definitely was beautiful place, especially for we people. We had shifted from a village. In village there were just two buses. One bus will move in the morning and one bus will come in the evening. But when I came to Srinagar, we had been visiting father frequently, but when we
Mm.
shifted to Srinagar, we felt that we are in a mad rush, first of all,
Oh,
because serenity was gone. There was not that peace, that greenery, that atmosphere which we used to enjoy. But as it was for the purpose of our education, our settlement, all the three of us were sent to good schools. I joined a college, and there also my father ensured that quality education was given, and we were provided best possible facilities so that we could achieve something in our life, be able to survive better, live better, and live a quality life. He did all that.
that's so great. Before, yes, yes. Further, I would like to say that thank you. I mean, do you want to say something about those that college, Maulana Azad, on the Maulana Azad Road,
Uh,
which everybody comes and tells
yes,
something about that
yes,
institution? Who was your principal?
def,
Who are your
uh,
inspirations there?
Sha- yes, Shamla Mufti. Shamla
Correct.
Mufti was principal then.
I've heard about it.
I
Yeah.
yes, she was the principal, and I was a literature student, and we had a group of the girls. Mostly, we enjoyed staying in the canteen, having. We used to have rajma chawal then, our chole chawal, and we used an ice cream which cost 1 rupee only, and it was a treat sitting there and enjoying that. But the
You were a
studies were
student
very
of you were a student of literature, so you must be knowing
literature, right?
Professor Nirja Mattu. She was
Yes,
teaching English
yes.
literature.
Vijay, Pandita ma'am taught
Okay,
us, and Nirja, yes, they were there in the college. I know them.
okay. Anything else you want to say?
Then I joined university. I completed my MA in education,
Tell us about that
and
scene of university
that
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 on that
was out of this
exclusive,
world, out of this world. Those
exclusive
2 years,
Chinar Tree, avenues of
yes,
Chinar Tree, yeah,
Chinars, Nasim
lake.
Bagh, and yes, lake nearby, and the atmosphere, the study atmosphere or the academic atmosphere, that was par excellence. And we'd enjoy not only our faculty, our English faculty. It was just at the entrance only as we entered the main gate, and it was really, I should say, a heaven on earth. And especially during the autumn season, we used to sit on the leaves of chinar and in the sun, in the big lawns there, and enjoy, study, do the group studies, and like it anything. It is a memorable time of life.
Okay. So that's how it was in Srinagar, and we'll go to now. We'll first of all, I think your stories will crisscross again when you talk about your father's story.
Sure,
So all the
sure,
things will
sure,
come.
sure.
Some anecdotes will intermix in between. So, we're not
Definitely.
in a hurry. We are not in a hurry. Something will come out of our conversation. Before that, I would
Sure.
like to just present one. Tibet Bakal has, I mean, he has sung one of your father's devotional song. It's so
Right.
wonderful. It's so evocative. And Tibet Bakal himself was a very elevated personality. And Masarat Saab's bhajan, devotional poetry. And
Right.
I think it is slightly, on the tone of the present day videos they have made. There must be certain things mixed up more. But then again, I
Is
didn't have an option, so I put up this. I'll just put that song for our audience.
sure, sure.
जाने दर्शन हुलचुम हावस शंकर नावस पूजा छै जाने दर्शन हुलचुम हावस शंकर नावस पूजा छै यथनल गुमुत छुस्यथे वावस शंकर नावस पूजा Yatnal lagmut सुसरथ वावस
शंकर नावस पूजा
जाने दर्शन
पूछूं हावस शंकर नावस पूजा
जाने.
So that was a glimpse of this song. It's a long song, so length is slightly higher, so we cannot do it.
Thank
But let's now, first of all, come to your father's poetry. Your
you.
father is known as a very, very celebrated, I can say now he's being celebrated, but very indigenous poet who wrote in complete Kashmiri. He didn't import any word and it was uncorrupted, virgin, but it had a fragrance of, because probably his background from the village and so the Shopian and living in Rainawari. Tell us
Right.
something about uh, the poetry, the poet Masarat. What was he
Right.
all about? Let's talk about his poetry, its style, its structure. Probably
Right.
he wrote in blank verses for a long period
Right.
of time. Tell us
Right, sir.
something about his style of writing, his uniqueness. Yes.
Right. First of all, his passion for his language, why he wanted to preserve and protect his language in its purest form, was his acute love for his language. You will not believe it that he printed my wedding card, invitation card for my wedding in Kashmiri only. And he said,
Are
it is our language. Let me publish it. He printed, got that card printed in Kashmiri language only. Right. And what we have observed, as all of us, the people who have read him, who know him well, who have studied his poems, and this the vocabulary that he has been using is totally village based, purest of the pure form, right?
Mm,
I
okay.
would like to quote a line. I will quote a line just to give the example of the vocabulary, the way he has used. Yen yel makle pe pious.
Ah,
I hope a person who lives in a city would hardly understand this. Yen yel makle pe pious. It is an analogy drawn with weaving. We have the yarn on a stand. There are some wooden stands. Yarn is there, and the cloth is woven on that.
oh,
And
wonderful.
pret. Yes, and it is a philosophical idea behind it, that when we have abundance in life, when we have everything in life, we hardly value it. But when we realize that the things have passed on, the things have gone out of our hands, we realize that the loss is there. So as long as the yarn is there, the pret, the holders, they're satisfied, they are
Mhm.
happy. Once the yarn is finished, so it is directly applicable, it is directly related to our dissatisfaction, our sense of loss, our realization that we when we lose something like that, right? And there are other observations which have been made. I would just fail in my, I should say, my duty. A
I was,
very
Veena ji, I wanted to ask about, I was first asking about, this is wonderful. I mean, we all wanted to know about this, and you've spoken so well.
okay,
And but
okay.
I want to know about the structure, the style of his poetry. First, we'll go to the content
Yes,
part.
yes. It's a free verse. It's a free verse,
What
and
black verse?
mostly
Yeah.
black verse. And he mostly talked about nature. Nature was his passion. He liked each and everything in his whatever he came across. Even if he visited a paddy field, a vegetable garden, or a river, he would spend hours there watching and observing it. So it
Oh,
somehow fascinated him, right? And talking about his style, I have seen him use the language which is very common and mostly rustic, pastoral,
that's what his
without
name is.
any
Lucid.
corruption. Yes,
Lucid. Yeah.
yes, yes, yes. And talking about different words, rhythm, the lines are not very long, they are very short.
Okay.
Pun in shy, pun in lie.
Yes,
It
yes. I
says
have
a
heard
lot.
this. I listened to one of his videos. I saw
Yes,
those.
it says a lot, but it is very precise. You just say
To the
what we
point.
call to the point, right? Panun bol, panun bosh, panin nag, sabz bag, Sh- Vushun sheen, Vushun
Pushing.
sheen, warm snow,
Worms.
Vushun sheen, shuhul
That's a
taf,
metaphor. That's a metaphor.
it's a
Mushun scene is a
metaphor.
metaphor.
Vushun
Panun nab,
sheen,
panun nab. Beautiful.
panin line. Beautiful. Yes. And one of the most acclaimed poems, Satpoet Gazravit. It
Yeah,
was
that's a very popular poem. It has been, yeah,
has
used
been
many on many
yes, it
occasions.
was
People are reciting
yes.
it always. Yeah.
It has been translated by Agni Shekhar in Hindi, and Anupam Kher recited this
Yes.
particular poem on
Yes.
I Am Buddha as a tribute. Those days, it was very near my father's demise that it was the program was organized, and this song was sung in 1993 in the
Oh,
first Kashmiri Pandit conference by Kailash Mehra, and
okay.
Agni Shekhar had recommended this song. And what is here, what I was just touched by, he has used the analogy of Saptapadi.
Sab
Saptapadi, Sat Fere.
Sat
When
Peri.
a bride, a girl moves in another family, she has to just shift from a particular family to a new relationship. It is a celebration, it is a religious festival,
Oh,
it is a matter of excitement and joy. But Daddy has used that Saptapadi for migration, that we were grandly, majestically terminated, thrown away, right?
yes.
As if the way it is an irony where there should have been celebration, there should have been a new life, there should have been something which was a matter of celebration. It was a sorrow for us, and the
Okay.
way he has conducted is. And Agni Shekhar ji, I would definitely like to mention, has said that this is an anthem of exile, Saptapadi. So it is an anthem of exile
Actually,
because
while inculcating, while usage of such words, the great poets across the globe, whenever they use this is a civilizational word. Sapadi is a I won't call it a
yes,
ritualistic. Ritual is a very limited vision.
right,
It is a civilizational word. It has traveled from thousands years from Vedic civilization to the current, and it has been preserved indoors by Kashmiris. And he symbolizes that civilizational
yes,
essence through Sapadi and celebration. Then it is his agony, it is his dilemma. He thinks that there should have been celebration. Instead of
yeah,
celebration, we are uprooted.
yes,
So that is
right.
something, the loss of everything, loss of
Yes, and
esteem,
I see irony in what he is writing about
irony,
it.
yes, dilemma and irony.
There's irony,
So
dilemma, right, sir.
I would like to ask one thing, that since you have been close associate of Masarat Saab, and I still want to talk more about his poetry, because we want to know his poetry from devotional to the nazam to the meter to the black verse, and while he has also written on pathetic poems. I'm talking before 90.
Mhm.
This poem, particularly this devotional song, which Tibat Bakal, which the video I played just now, it is probably, you
This,
said it was in
yeah,
1955. That's
1955. He himself, yes, he told me.
that's
He
a
had
that's
told
a
me.
much earlier time. And
Right, sir.
while how did you witness evolution of poet within him? Romanticism was there at the core because he belonged to a beautiful country, and Kashmir itself,
Right,
everywhere it's romanticism, whether structures, symbols, or the social ecology. But
right,
besides that, he must have been he has done satires, as well as he has written about pathos. He has written about
yeah,
social challenges also. So let me
right,
know
sir.
about his graph, his journey. How has he evolved as a personality? The Masarat, the poet. That I wanted to
Right,
know.
sir.
Yes.
Right, sir. Right, sir. So in the beginning, as he wrote some devotional songs, there are many more devotional songs that he has written, but unfortunately, we are not having the scripts of those songs. They are not available. They have been sung, they have been broadcast in All India Radio, also Radio Kashmir, but we could not get hold of. We are trying to get a copy of those. And after that, there is most of the poems, there is a sense of hope,
Oh,
optimism,
Optimism.
And
That's
that I have observed in most of his poems, that he is a positive poet, and he writes about the life which needs to be celebrated, and life which should always go ahead in what do you call hope and not despair. And after 90 the scenario changed, and
everything
you can
changed.
easily
We're coming
see
down to
the.
that. We'll come down to that part
Okay,
slightly later, because I'm also a
okay,
romanticist poet. So I want to keep this to the beautiful side, the wonderful side, the celebrous side of Masarat. Let's discuss that first, because a poet transcends all these things. Because the poet is the poet who really the poet whom we call the poet. Poet transcends all these dimensions of the shades, dark and gay.
right,
He is a
right,
personality which is something beyond, something different from the ordinary people. So I'd like to
right,
ask one thing about. Let's talk about him at the backdrop. You said the village was there and the Ranavari was
right,
there. I heard he had a
right.
great merchant shop in the Ranavari locality, and it was a batak, a meet point, a rendezvous
Yes,
for the great
yes.
literateurs. And tell us something about this wonderful shop. Any anecdote about it? The people coming, friends, literateurs, artists, and all these things. This must be a wonderful narration. Let's know about it.
Right, right. Um, when he was in village, he got married in 1957, and his father tried that he should do some farming, because there were no other resources, there were no other opportunities of job or work or occupation in the village.
Okay.
And my grandfather had a shop also. He was running a shop also, and he was a very good farmer also. And I trace this literary taste of my father to my grandfather. My grandfather, he had studied up to class 5 only, but
Okay.
he was a very well read person.
Okay.
He in those days he had a subscription for many magazines, and in the village mostly the subscriptions are not there. There are no study materials, and most people are involved in the day to day life of the village. But my grandfather was a well read person, and there was abundance of books in our home which my father could read, right? So I think that was a plus point, where he got exposure to all this. And when he tried to get him settled in the village or do some job, as he had got married as well. But my father was a king at heart. He did not like farming. He was not meant for hard work.
Okay.
He was a man of fine taste and fine just
Intellect,
an intellect, right?
poet, and
And
artist.
may I quote an anecdote? It is a lovely one
Yes, yes,
regarding
please, please.
his trying to be a farmer. And
Vinaji,
my
this is
grandfather,
a show. This is a show of anecdotes. So do it
okay,
pleasingly. Yeah.
sure. My father, usually we didn't have tractors then. We plowed the land with the oxes, right?
Okay.
So my grandfather, he had to go to the farm for plowing. Oh, he sent my father to a home of a farmer. He said, "Okay, we need their oxes. We don't have oxes. We need that. I want to plow the field. So will you please go and see if the oxes are ready there? Are they available there?" And he
Mm.
went there. When he came back, and his father said, "Okay, are the oxes there?" He said, "Yes, they are there." So
Mm.
my grandfather took the plough, and he started for the field to plough the fields. When he reached there, he found two cows there. There were no oxen, there were two cows. Then he
Okay.
called his son. He said,
That's a great
"Can
humor.
you identify? Is this an ox? Or this is a cow?" Excuse me, I just saw there was something on, and I thought this is an ox. So that was his inclination to be a farmer. So keeping this in mind, my grandfather decided
He
to
must have
send
said,
him
"Ata,
to.
Mr. Vikram, atkayım lagi nahi hai."
You know, yes, he's not meant for. He wasn't meant for this
It was not
hard
meant.
labor and working in the farms. Yes,
But from
and
here,
so he.
this is a very humorous incident. But I have heard that humor was also the great part of the Masarat's personality.
Beautiful part. He was so ready wit, so humorous. everywhere, anytime. He had Persian couplets, he had shaloks, he had examples of Ghalib and this to cite for each and every occasion,
Well read. He was
anytime,
a well read.
anywhere. He was a well-read person. His schooling was up to class 10th only, but he has mastered 6 languages. And as a broadcaster, he was supposed to be master in the studio, be it Persian, be it Sanskrit, be it Hindi, be it English.
That's
And
so.
and to me, he said, "You are illiterate. Says you have done MA English, you have done your MEd,
Yes.
but you are not a good
We are
reader."
we are heads and
Because
heads here, and people are not read well read. They don't. They are not.
speaking, I'm not a good reader. He had been an avid reader, and
Ferocious.
my brothers have inherited that trait. They are very good readers,
That's so.
both of them. I'm not. And he said, even if you are well read, even if you have degrees, but I consider you are illiterate because you don't
Education
read
is
much.
something. It has to do with something so
Something is.
self
He has
enlightenment.
proved he
Yeah.
has proved it that it's not necessary that you get degrees, you go to college and university only then. Yeah. And he could just he did not translate on a page. He got a page, had a look at the page, and during the COVID times, he would dictate translation, keeping a page in front of him, and he would dictate the translation on phone. He did
Oh.
not write it. He did not write the translation. He just
Oh.
had a look.
Extempore.
He
Extempore.
just had a look. Yeah, he just had a look and this. And I had gone with him to All India Radio also, and I saw how hard he.
Vinaji, we are talking about, let's stick to a bit of structure. We're talking about Rainavari, his business unit, and
Oh
a
yes,
place
yes,
place for all
yes.
literatures, artists,
Sorry for the
progressive people.
digression.
It is a
Yes.
wonderful, it must be a wonderful anecdote which needs to be recorded in the archives. How was it? Because अब ये signs नहीं मिलते, बाद में नहीं मिलेंगे ना. These are the wonderful
Of-
signs of those civilizations, those
yes.
times.
So he was sent to Rainavari. My grandfather had a cousin there, and we are very in depth with them. They gave good support. He stayed with them. They helped him to establish his business. But he was there. He met the people he cherished. There were some very good uh, writers. There is a beautiful this one. No doubt he had a cloth shop, but there was a vast circle of friends. They included poets, painters, writers, theater artists, teachers, and social activists.
Oh, wonderful.
And they would enjoy a funny time. They would enjoy a rich time there. And one of his best friends, Mr. Jawaharlal Bira, JL Bira, and JL Dhar, they were his closest friends there in Ranavari, right?
Mhm.
So he got the atmosphere, he got to talk about people, he got to read, he got time to spend in reading, discuss things. Amin Kamil, and there are many people who visited him in his shop, right? And they had a
Mhm.
beautiful what we call discussions, literary discussions. And even now he used to spend most of his time in the coffee house because he could meet the intellectual minds there, the people, and discuss with them. And there he started writing poetry. And it was already in his genes. Talent was there, and it flashed by the company he was in, the people he interacted with, the people who encouraged him, and definitely he went ahead.
Okay, that's so wonderful. That's so wonderful. So you talked about the people like Rahman Rahi and the other, I mean Kamil and other the parties.
Farooq
We are all,
Nazmi, Amin Kamil, yes,
they all
they
visited.
were the part of this. Yes,
Avatar
they were
Motaji,
his
Avatar
friends.
Motaji has written a great detail about him. I would like to just
Oh,
recite what Avatar Motaji has translated. मैं वैसे normally I don't read translations of others. मुझे मजा नहीं
okay.
आता because I am a perfectionist. But Avatar Motaji is somebody who really knows the art very well. What says Patapatach dramas Kodgasak. What says Patapatach I will read the English part what he has translated. अभी अभी
Mhm.
उन्होंने कमेंट लिखा है. The paths have drifted farther and farther. Where shall you go now? These paths have been wrapped up like the reed mat.
Mhm.
Wagu, where shall
Right.
you go? Even if you tread through the laid down path, you may reach nowhere. At every turn, our paths have been dug and blocked. Where shall we go now? It's probably he has written on 1990 when the migration happened. Yes, please,
Right.
you will continue. We're talking about this Rainavari days of your father. Yeah.
Right. So he had a very nice and funny time with his friends, and as his behavior, as his attitude, as his personality was, he liked to gossip, talk to friends, discuss things, and he got a very good atmosphere and surroundings to flourish, I should say, in the Ranavari. That was the proper interaction, proper exposure he required his talent to be flourished there.
His kalam, his poetry was sung by the great personalities like Raj Begum, great
Right,
singers like Raj Begum, Tibat Bakal himself, and
right,
Later Kailash Mehra and others. Tell us something
right.
about his poetry being broadcasting and telecasted, and some visual motion films made. I mean, the videos made over it. Tell us something about this. His poetry, his work being reflected into the broadcasting, into All India Radio, as
Yes,
well as the television, as well as the social sites. Yeah.
right. There are many poems that he has written. They have been sung, but they have been broadcast in the village. There used to be a program at 9:30 in the morning, and that was the Kashmiri songs. And
No.
every day there will be some two throws written by, and my mother used to be very excited when she
Mm.
heard, okay, Kalami Masrat, when she heard Kalami
Kalame Mustafa.
Masrat.
Okay.
Yes, she
That
was
was
so
how the
thrilled.
announcer
Yes,
quoted him. Yeah.
yes, yes. And he was associated with All India Radio in 1962,
Oh,
right?
that's long back.
Uh,
Yes.
yes. And in 1971, he was invited to represent Kashmir National Symposium of Poems, organized by All India Radio. It is every year it is organized around Republic Day. And he was
Okay.
invited in 71 to represent Kashmir, and he was also invited in 1993. That was same program that was organized in Lucknow, right? So
He
the,
was also very widely published. Tell us something about where did his poems publish, and which were the
yes,
magazines? I mean,
yes,
were it the
yes,
nationally reputed magazines or the prominent
yes.
magazines of the state? Yeah.
They were the state magazines mostly,
Okay.
right? There was this Shiraz and
Shiraz,
other. I don't. Yes,
Academy,
exactly. Now,
Academy Chronicle, Academy magazines. Yeah.
academy
They-
magazines.
Academy
Yes,
magazine.
most of his poems have been published there and
Mm.
translated as well. The
And
Shantivir
translation,
call. Yes, yes, yes. I would definitely come to that.
Shanti
Shri
Gopal is
Shantivir.
translated.
Yes, he has.
You have
He
any
had
translated
translated.
right now with you?
I have I have a translation of Shantivir Kaul, but tragically I don't have the original poem. I have asked Shantivir Kaul to give me the. He has promised
No,
that I'll just
you
locate
can
it
just
and
recite the translation for our viewers because all over world people who don't know Kashmiri also they will hear it.
yes,
You can recite it
yes,
for all.
I have a translation. May I just put it? I have the
It is
translation
there.
available. I'll read a few stanzas here. Title of the poem is Safar. It is the Hindi
Suffer.
translation. Actually, there was a program of Hindi Academy, and my daddy had to he read the Kashmiri version, and I read the Hindi version translated by Shanti
Oh,
Virkol. It
that's
was
so
some
wonderful.
10 or 15 years back, right? There was a big program here in Delhi, right? May I just read some lines?
Please.
कहीं अंतर में खुद को जानना, कहीं उतरना, भाद चढ़ाना, निज संग निज की बाट जोहना, खुद ही सुनना खुद की बातें, घर
Yeah.
घर जाकर दौर दौर से, निकल निकल कर यूं ही आड़े, श्वास विश्वास से शब्दों का अर्थ बार बढ़ाना, और लौट कर आते क्षण में वस्त्र विहीन अर्थ शब्दों के दौर अलगनी पर धूप टांगना.
Wow. Shadi even he is I mean he is so wonderful. He
Beautiful,
can
beautiful translation.
wonderful language. but this content must have been as good as what how he has translated. That's what I presume. Yes.
Yeah.
And you were part of the. He has been to the this recitation fora, and you have been part of the musharas. Used to go along with him to the All India Radio and
Many times I have attended many mushairas with him.
any
And
spectacle, any spectacle about any mushara, any anecdote you want to just share with us here.
but I just cherish this one, this translation. Our entire family was there. My
Okay,
brothers and all family was there,
always there.
and it was yes. I'll just give you the content also. Yes. So this was a beautiful. I have read the first stanza.
Mhm.
So you want one more?
No, no, it's all right. Well, I mean, I got. We'll just move ahead. And
Oh yes.
yes, tell us something. Now we'll talk about his personality. I have heard that he was a man who was laid back, who was low profile, who never even loud or who was not obsessed with propagation of his name, accolades, get the accolades, public accolades or the fame. Not very
Hundred
much into
percent.
it. And
Hundred.
tell us something about his personality, his compassion, his humanism, his interaction with the external
Yes.
world, and his inner
Sure.
interaction as well.
Right. Uh, it may be very subjective as I'm
Doesn't matter,
emotionally
doesn't
attached
matter.
to it.
Whatever, you
So
must speak the truth. Shitala conversation will speak the truth. That is the only thing.
it is the truth. It is the truth. But yes, I'm not going to, because all the people listening over there, they will bear me out. They'll
You can
understand what I'm
use
saying.
allegorism. You can use allegoric, indirect way. You can communicate. Doesn't matter. It
Sure,
should not hurt
sure.
anyone. Yes.
No, I'm not. So first of all, what I have observed my father, he was a king at heart. He was an emperor, and he always
King at heart.
wanted.
That's so wonderful.
He was a king. He was a king at heart. And one thing very important and very interesting was he was very so particular about his looks. He always wanted to look good, and that's why his dress, his clothes, and especially his hair. He had a passion for his hair. His
Oh.
hair had started turning gray at very young age. It was almost 30 or 35 years when
Mhm.
his hair started turning gray, but he never used any dye until the last of his life. He had long, thick,
He had
silver,
grown the hair. Yeah.
long.
Locks, hair
Actually,
locks.
during COVID, during COVID times, the beard that you could see in the video that I had forwarded to you, that was during the COVID days, because there
Okay.
was no shaving and all that. And the hair, he was passionate about it. And there is an instance whenever he saw some strands of hair fall, he would be horrified. My God, my
He
hair is
loved it.
falling.
He
Yeah,
possessed them very much. Yeah.
very possessive about his hair. He say, I need some Ayurvedic medicine. I need some medicine because my hair is falling, and he did not want it to happen. And
Oh.
something at this last stage when he was taken to hospital, my brother Bharat, he went in the PP kit. He had corona, my father, and he said, Daddy, his oxygen levels were getting low. Says, we have to, I have booked a bed, we have to shift to hospital for oxygen. And she says, okay, it's fine. I'll take the medicine. No, give me my comb first. I want to comb my hair
Oh,
first. And there was
do
a
my hair.
nurse. Yes, there was a nurse also, and he was being shifted to the hospital. So you can well imagine his mindset. You can well imagine the way he wanted to live his life. He wanted to look like. He
He wanted
wanted
to celebrate his
always
life.
to be fit. Yes. And
Immaculate.
yeah. And one thing more, if we click the photograph, for example, I'm very fond of photography, and whenever we're just sitting together, dinner or just casually, I would click a photograph and then immediately say, how me, God, how me. It should not be an photograph. It should look good. I don't want to keep anything that is not
Which is
going to be.
obnoxious or not into the
Yeah,
tune.
yeah. So immediately he would say, God, how,
Conscious about
God,
this.
how.
This is good.
Right.
This is about. This
Yes.
is all about this media people. We all media people, the actors, the artists, especially
Right.
actors. Artists are not artists. They don't care. I mean,
Yes.
mostly. But
Yes.
this is something very peculiar about his personality. किसी के साथ तो प्रेम हुआ ना, बालों के साथ ही सही, नेचर के
Yeah.
बाद.
Yes. Yes.
And we talk about his interaction with the friends, the neighbors, the family.
Yeah.
How
Yeah.
was he as a
Yeah.
father?
He was
There must have
as a
been
father.
many
As a
anecdotes.
father, he was extraordinary. I really, in the village life, I just you said we are going to interchange some anecdotes. In the village, we usually people went to a government school, got education, and that is it. But he ensured that we had a home tutor. He
Oh,
arranged the best tutor for three of us, myself, the eldest, and my two brothers, and Mr. Omkar Nath Koul. He's now no more with us. And he
okay.
used to come to our home, and he used to teach us for 2 to 3 hours. And then he brought abridged classics, comics, just
Oh,
to ensure it was in village when we were just working in the fields and running in the meadows and all that. He had that vision. He had
he
that
looked beyond
futuristic vision, foresight,
vision.
that yes, they have to grow, they have to know. They'll not be taught these things in a government school. They need to get the private tuition. So he arranged that tuition in a village, and everybody was so surprised. Why are you doing so? Why are you doing this? And he was the most efficient teacher in our village.
Oh.
And that shows the care, the
I mean, he
concern, the
was a.
foresight.
I mean, that is a very unusual aspect of a person. Normally, the writers, they are very ambivalent. They are carefree people. They don't. But here you are telling about that aspect of his personality, that he was
Of
very
course,
responsible, and he
very
inculcated a
responsible.
vision for the future for his children
Right.
and other people around. Yeah.
And he did not mind abandoning everything. That was his biggest sacrifice, I should say. The village he loved so much, his home, ancestral home, all the property, it was just given to somebody. Okay, you are going to work on this, you are going to do this. He did not mind getting the profits. All mattered to him. We had a rented house in Karan Nagar. We stayed
Okay.
there. And his love of nature, I would just like, was when he looked for a home in Srinagar. Then first we were
Okay.
living in rented accommodation, Karan Nagar. Then he looked for a home where we could settle down. We needed a house,
Oh,
and
good.
he hunted. There was house hunting for, I should say, years. And at last, what did he choose? He chose a landscape in the foothills. I
Oh,
hope you have heard the name of Ishbar Gupt Ganga, where
yes,
Swami
yes.
Lakshman Ji's
Swami
ashram
Lakshman
is
are
there.
born there. Yes,
Yes,
I
in
visited
Gupt
many
Ganga,
times.
right? Right. And there is a road that goes uphill, upwards, because he
Mhm.
said that if we are to have a house, it should have a beautiful view. So
Oh,
he
so wonderful.
chose a place. I would love to describe this. There were three terraces of our own house. It was with a wooden balcony, wooden veranda, and there was a small stream flowing through our house, through our
Oh, that's so
compound.
wonderful. So wonderful.
There was a chinar in our house, which was our own, in our plot, in our land. There was this beautiful river, a small stream. It had a wooden bridge. Both the sides were covered with the jasmine flowers. There was a
Wonderful.
chinar, and we had
That's an
swings on the chinar.
that's an ideal
That's,
place where a poet could live, and certainly even a person who is
yes,
not a poet, he will become a poet
yes.
while going to place, romanticizing place like you were mentioning.
Yes.
Yeah.
And anybody who visited our house, they said there is no need to go to Chashma Shahi, Nishad Garden, or any other Mughal garden, because the view from your house is par excellence. We are staying in the comfort of a home,
Right.
and on one side we can see Dal because it was at a height. We had to just go to the higher levels. It was we had to go uphill, right, from the road. It was so we
Okay.
could have view of the mountains on one side, Dal Lake on the other side, and lush green lawns with flowers.
Meadows,
There
meadows,
was a
moons.
dedicated gardener, and he would plant the flowers, look after the flowers, and then the small river, and then the wooden bridge, and then the chinar.
That's so
And
great.
from that he had to shift a small rented home in Delhi.
Yes, yes, that's very
It was a
tragic.
small.
We'll come to
That
that part.
is
We'll come to that part. I have heard this story is so replete in itself. A poet's heart is very sensible. It's very subtle. It breaks it can break very easily. And such a horrendous thing happened. Everything was uprooted. And I remember I had been to this writer. There were these brothers, three brothers, the great prose writer. I was producing something that he had written a script for that, and he also talked about his house. These Whenever we used to meet in coffee house, everybody was talking about his beautiful house they made in
mm,
Kashmir before they left. So that's very tragic. That's very tragic. And but I asked you something about his relationship with the friends, with the neighbors, and with you. You narrated beautifully how he catered, how he reared his children, how he showed the
right,
ways, how his vision was, and the way he
right.
lived, very majestic
Yes,
living. It's not an
right.
ordinary person cannot dream of. You
Okay.
still have that house there?
Nay, actually, he had lost his entire business. My brothers were only students, they were studying. I was already married, right?
Yes, yes,
So there was
yes.
no source of income. So we needed a home here. So he sold that for very nominal price. And with that, we purchased a plot in Delhi, here in the Mahavir and Kile, Bengal. And he got a three bedroom set
He
constructed there.
created that.
So
That's wonderful. That's wonderful.
yes, and that because they needed a house then. My brothers were married both. He got them married. He did all types of odd jobs to
I heard
ensure
about.
that family
I mean,
survives.
that's what I'm
Right.
saying. Na, like Sahil Ludhian, जिन्हें है नाज हिंद पे वो कहाँ है? तो I wanted to ask them, जिन्हें है नाज मसरत पे, जो आज सब लोग, all the people who are selling, because Professor Shok came to this program, a literature
Okay.
professor. He said one thing very, Kashmir has become a carrier. Kashmiri literature, our tragedy has become a carrier for many people. But when Masarat was in need, when Masarat
Yeah.
really wanted, there was no one around. Posthumously, everything. Punjabi ka wo dialogue hai na, jinde danga moe banga. So something like that. But anyway, that is. I mean, we all have suffered like that. We all have the
Yes.
same stories, almost similar stories. But because he was a businessman, he didn't have a
Right.
job. So naturally,
Right.
I mean, it was like falling from ninth cloud, this cloud directly to the terrain, arid
Right.
and a rigid
Right.
terrain. That's very
Right.
sad. But anyway, let's move ahead and let's know about his relationship with his friendship, his acquaintance, his social
Yes.
endeavor, his social face, his social
Yeah.
presentation. I heard that he was a compassionate person, helpful to
Right.
everyone. Please,
Right, sir.
please tell us something about that
Uh,
aspect. Yeah.
yes. 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 He was. Whenever he formed a bond with anybody, any friendship, that lasted lifetime. That I'm proud of. So whoever was in his contact, in his relationship, in his friendship, in his fold, continue to be so. I would here mention his very close friend, Arjun Nath Kaul from our
Mm.
village,
Okay.
was we called Papa Ji. Because his children in village, it so happens everybody is called a Bhabhi, Papa Ji, Mama Ji, and when his children called Papa Ji, we also called him Papa Ji. He had
Mm.
such a close bond. They would spend hours together talking, and then they would decide, okay, now let me see you off. And in order to see each other off, they would again spend some 2 hours
Mm.
standing by the riverside, right? So he again has is no more with us. And then there are the friends he met in Srinagar. This is Jawaharlal Bira, a
Mm.
very close friend with
Okay.
whom we had so deep family relationship. Jawaharlal Dar, he's no more with us.
Mm.
Shri P.N. Kachru and Surender Kachru sir and Sampat Prakash, was a very
Radio
good
industry.
friend of daddy.
Mm.
Yeah, he used to come to our village. He used
Okay.
to stay with us and talk, spend some good time with us. And there was a friend, I would definitely, Abdul Rahman. Abdul Rahman, he had a dry cleaning shop in Ranavari. He
Oh.
was, yeah. And the bond of friendship was so deep that whenever he came to our house, uh, all of entire family would just surround him because he had a beautiful sense of humor. We enjoyed his talks, and we will be laughing for a long time whenever he came, and we never wanted to let him go, right? So this is, and Rasul Pampori, again a poet, Rasul Babur. He used to come here. And one friend I definitely would mention, Ram Krishan Kaul. He was he's librarian in Kendra Vidyalaya, and it's
Mm.
because of him that I got a job in Jamis. I did not know about KVS. I was studying, and he told me, "Okay, you have done MA in English, you have done BEd, you can join KVS." And in a snowfall, he came with the farms to Ishbar uphill, and I just applied and I got the job. So,
Okay.
and one thing more, his three of his friends, they were named Jawaharlal. So Kashmir mein Jawaharlal, Jawaharlal, Jawaharlal.
जवाहरलाल
So
बोलते
there
हैं
is a
सबको. Mm.
Jawaharlal bolte hain. There is an anecdote I would love to
Oh,
mention.
please, please.
Uh, One day, all the three Jawaharlals, right? They were just having some fun time, roaming about, enjoying late night outings, and they were just held up by a policeman. And the policeman said, "Why are you roaming about late?" This is just we love to be out, and it's a moonlit night, and
By
we are
the moment.
enjoying it. And he said, the policeman said, "Are you drunk?" He says, "No, you can check. We are not drunk. We are just having a nice time." And the policeman said, "Okay, tell me your name." One said Javlal, second said Javlal, third said Javlal. So that's it is proved you are drunk. How can everybody be a Javlal? There were three of them, and they were taken to the police station.
All
All
the
right.
three were taken to the police station.
Obviously, police said that
Because
they are
naturally
drunk.
this was a rare coincidence, which
Yes,
that
they
policeman could
they are.
not understand. बेचारा
Everybody
उसका
can't
क्या.
be a Javlal. So this anecdote was narrated by
That's so
Daddy.
wonderful. And how was he? I mean, in relationship with your like your cousins and other people, the neighborhood, and how was as a person in terms of distress when some relative was in distress. I have heard that he was a very compassionate person, and
He was
tell us
very
something
kind,
about that aspect as well. Yeah,
definitely. He was quite soft-hearted, a very kind-hearted person.
like
And as every artist or every writer or every
each other's.
intellectual person usually is. And he would feel the pain of others. And he would definitely try to extend
That's
whatever
known as
help
empathy.
was
Empathy. That's known
possible.
as empathy. He had his
Empathy.
empathy.
He would extend the help, whatever possible on his side. And I have just left out one aspect as a husband, right? And
Yes.
they got married in 1957. Sorry, am
Yes,
I
I've seen
going
that
too fast?
beautiful photograph of your mother, and your mother seems to be they seem to be made for each other.
27. She was 27 then in the photograph, the black white photograph.
Okay,
She
yes.
was 27 then. Yes. And when she got married, obviously there was no question of seeing each other before marriage. And when they were just having the ceremony was being conducted, it was in the mirror. They saw each other for the first time, because
Oh,
usually it is supposed to be that you should see your partner in the mirror when it is shown by the pandit ji.
in
And
those
that was
times,
it.
yeah.
Yes. And that bond that continued for 64
That's a
years.
wonderful imagery and visual. Seeing each other in the mirror. Yeah,
Mirror for the
that's good.
first time. And
Okay.
she was with him, full support, because I have told you my father as a farmer and how efficient he could have been. All the responsibility of the village land was taken up by my mother, and
Oh,
he was free for his business. And she had not gone to school even, and she was very careful, very conscious, very particular that children should be well educated. She did not permit me to go to kitchen, she did not permit me to work in the fields. I tried to,
that's good.
some of my friends went to the fields and this and that. I also tried, but she never let us work. Says, "You just study, you have your books." So she understood the value of education. So, and different, there were phases, ups and downs, and she was there always, very economical, very cooperative, from the beginning of the relationship till her last.
That's so wonderful. That's so wonderful.
and she passed just 2 months before my father, just 2 months. So
I mean, that's a wonderful, because you cannot become a great poet unless or until there is a great saying that the women in your life, they play a
yeah,
very very vital role,
she
especially
has
when
been
you are
very
an artist.
supportive.
You are a
Yeah,
creative person. If your women are not cooperative, if they are not in tune with your temperament, there is a
right,
chance that everything will stop. So that way,
right.
I think that was a very ideal couple. So now let's move to another arena. Let's talk about post 90. Did this hallucinating, horrendous migration, which uprooted all of us, disconnected all of us from the civilization, and a person like Masarat, who lived a complete life of exuberance, who celebrated his life, who wrote wonderful native poetry, who was responsible, who respected his language also, because his language, his syntax, that was the original, it was uncorrupted. That is something great. There are very few people in Kashmir now who do not hybridize the language, who do not import the language. So there is something great. He followed the traditions of Nadim Saab and other these people. But when this happened, this migration, mass migration happened, tragedy happened, what was its effect on his personality, physical and psychological? Physical, as you already explained, he was in a great trouble and he had to sell everything and he had to do some menial jobs as well. That's very tragic.
Right.
It happens with great people. And afterbirth, everybody talks about it because everybody wants to see something immortal. But while being the person who faces it, encounters it, he is the person who knows where the shoe pinches.
Right.
What was his physical consequence of migration and the psychological consequence as a poet? Did it affect his poetry? And
100%.
let us know about all those aspects after the migration.
Yeah, yeah. Uh, it was, I think, a big shock to him because as a person, he has been very sensitive, and he has been in love with his roots. He has tried to live a life which is just uh, just one with his tradition, one with his roots, one with where he was born, brought up, he lived his entire life. And being totally cut off, being totally left alone, it was really shocking. And it is 100% reflected in his poems. I hope you have just gone through Yeli
Yes, yes.
Brahmphut.
I'll just present one of his post-migratory poem. It's a wonderful one.
Yeah,
I would like to share it
yeah,
with our audience. Masarat ji's
sure.
poem. It will definitely explain. Although I have edited it a bit, I have not taken because his extreme side I don't want to see. I'm also a very sensitive person as a poet,
I can,
but
I can,
I
I
have
can.
edited it. You have edited, rather. I have asked you to edit it. So I will.
Oh, yeah.
It will give you a glimpse of Masarat after this horrendous migration onslaught on our community, on our civilization happened.
Yeli Brahmphut Punim zoon shihirat mudir saath karamat Panun pan, panun pai, panin shai, panin lai Panun hor, panun yor, panun dor, zawapur Panun bosh, panun bol, panin thar, panun ol Shihil nag, sabz bag Panin tal, panin rag Wushun sheen, shuhul taaf, tarin tur, hava saaf Panun tser, panin sul, panun shar, shihil kul Panin dor, panin daw, panun nab, panun raw Panin raat, panin do, panin bal, panin ko Panin zaw, panin zaat, panin vizd, panun saat Zani jai, dalij grai, panin myths, panin mai. Megay zift medul man, vetastai nani tan, Thecher hoon tihin chai, vetastai mutsikhai, khavan lashi chavan khoon, huten hoon yeten hoon, brakan idije labantal, sukaiti khal, sukaiti dal. Me wush war meh sam, me basei shihij boon, sapal hoon baraspet.
So that's so wonderful. It's so evocative. It's greatly evocative. It certainly tells about his state of mind and how bitterness had come into his life. But somewhere down the line, I would like to say, because at the end of the day, he was a tall personality, because his vision was something transcended the time and space. Uh, that's what made him immortal. Tell us something. I mean, well, he departed from this immortal world to the journey of eternity. Uh, how did he leave? Did he leave as a bitter person, or he was a great optimist,
No.
a person of the same wit and humor and mirth and snigger?
Same wit, same humor, same personality, which he always had. But as I told you, it was just 2 months before that my mother passed away.
That
And
was a
that
show.
had that was a shock because they had been together for last 64 years.
My goodness.
And
It was
losing a partner of 64 years, it was very unbearable. I think
just
if Mama hadn't gone, perhaps he too wouldn't have gone. That just broke him inside. There was the will to live, I think, seized. He was the migration did not. He struggled. He was a
torment
fighter.
him completely,
Yeah.
devastate him completely.
Yes.
But his life partner
He
did.
fought back. He fought back. He came out victorious. He fulfilled all his duties as a father, right?
Oh,
But it was the uh, passing away of our
life
mother.
partner and associate, and such a life
Yeah,
partner who was in tune with
yeah.
you. They had the
So we
I
could
mean,
see a sea change in his behavior and his will to live, will to celebrate, that diminished in that period, in those 2 months.
2 months.
So he had lost that will because of Mama's story.
We'll remember Masarat by his title, by his pen name, by his takallus, a person who loved mirth. And you explained the other aspects of his life, that he loved celebration, he loved development, he loved all the material existence, material majestic
Right, right,
dimensions of life. And at the same
right.
time, he was a sensitive, sensible poet, moving poet, evolving poet, who wrote honestly, who was subdued, who lived with anonymity, who loved to be, remain in anonymity, and that's how he was in totality. It was a wonderful interaction with you. But before you depart from this studio, I would request you kindly, because you other day called, he said that my father was a Keats, because yes, of course, he was a romanticizing personality. He talked about nature. So nature, certainly Keats will be there. It will be resemblance to Keats, because I remember when I wrote poetry 20 years back. So later on, when I studied my Wordsworth book of my college time, I found the similarities. So somewhere down the line, the convergence, the divergence, it comes from the same source, which is much beyond, which is not visible to the human mind. So
Right.
let's have the wonderful recitation of Veena about his father, the great personality, the great poet, Masad.
Sure.
The one you would like to recite, you are
Ah, yeah.
available. If it's available with you, it's okay.
Ah, yeah. It's with me. Yes. The poem again reflects the positive attitude. That's why I have chosen this because
Optimism.
I wanted to present optimism of my father. In spite of the challenges and the difficulties, how in this poem he has tried that we always try to move ahead in life. Um, the poem goes like this: Yusbut hajat pyo ho to paik. Yus but hajat peo hot pak. Yus but buth peo nahanot pak. Zindkor Zindai kor meçmans pan dafan. Zindai kor meçmans pan dafan.
Wonderful.
Talpot Paris vatrot pak. Means whatever problems we had to face would not stop. Life goes on. Gairinirit atsan sur garas. Gairinirit atsan sur garas. Garasu pushrot pak. Pananui Sayut go bari garan. Pananui Sayut means shadow. Pananui
Nobody got it.
Sayut go bari garan. Sirsaya ak musrot pak. Diminished it. Lessened it. Yeli bijli kutis song sevel. Yeli bijli kutis song sevel. Kal bijli kutis chot pak.
That's so wonderful.
It's one of the famous couplets. Potau huri panahas sumgai vat. Narrow. Potau huri panahas sumgai vat. Panahas zecher pushtrot pak.
Wonderful.
Yeli vativot akpal buishus dai. Yeli vativot akpal buishus dai. Ad tali dokur putrot pak. Okay, if you are God, we accept you.
Okay.
Kuni akmut, kuni akmut, kuni mot byak katha. For God thanks. Kuni akmut, kuni mot byak katha. Ye pyo ti as ye pyo ti as yatrot pak. Yeli poshav sot nayab mushik. Yeli poshav sot nayab mushik. Han rasmas shahlit not pak. Yeli bat yam pat log zagtas. Yeli bat yam pat log zagtas. Ashtar gobe ushtrot pak.
Great.
Mashrab sritan log bar. Mashrab sritan log bar madad. Ye soch ti mashrot pak.
That's beautiful. Wonderful.
Life
Wonderful. Great. Great point. So with
all
that wonderful
fala
point,
fals.
that shows his
Yeli
optimism. And
bal te fala.
yes, yes, please, please. You are continuing. Yeah.
Yes. Yeli bal te fala fal sapid. Tatsrasmas but darrot pak. Zagatas yemivizios lol barun. Zagatas yemivizios lol barun. Kind tamat as sagnev pak. Bindraban gindno ras krishin. Bindraban gindno ras krishin. Gupi het was annot. Gupi het was annot pak. Yeli sansaras yospan karun. Yeli sansaras yospan karun. Shankar sun tandav hot pak. Pratkun means did as padan meet, means we adopted all situations. Pratkun means did as padan meet. Pad pod padrot pak. We did not give up. Matlab as pakana sweet os. Matlab as pakana sweet os ad prot pak ya rot pak. If we found,
Yes.
if we achieved, I lost.
Even
the
if we
life
lost,
continued.
we still continued.
We didn't
That's so
stop.
wonderful. That's so wonderful.
Correct.
It resembles Sahir Ludhianvi's that poem, that poetry, that wonderful immortal poetry. He tells the similar thing. And many poets who are very optimistic about life, they have talked about this. But one thing is that Masarat, now I understand this why this pen name Masarat still shines, because until now we only knew about him through his poetry, and there are some bitternesses which came on later on after the migration happened. But now, after having interaction with you, the people, the audience across the globe, all the spectators, valuable followers, adorers of Sheetal Conversations, children, people who don't know Kashmiri, and people who understand English, they have known this wonderful, great poet, contemporary poet of Masarat. And what was this name about, this Masarat? And he was true to this title. And it was not, again, a Hippocratic thing. He had rightly chosen this Takallus for him. Thank you very much. That's so wonderful talking to you, Veenaji. And
Thank you so much.
I wish you all the best. It was your
Thank you.
magnanimity you came. So we'll learn a lot about Masarat.
It's my honor,
Masarat,
sir. I was
Masarat,
honored.
Masarat
My
will remain
father was
always
honored.
in our hearts. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you,
Best
sir.
wishes. Best
My
wishes.
pleasure. My honor, sir. Thanks a lot.
हुई मुद्दत कि गालिब मर गया, पर याद आता है वो हर बात पे कहना, यूं होता तो क्या होता. So you've gone through this wonderful crisscross through the Masarat's life and understood how this takallus was a part of his personality, despite of so many changes, horrific changes in his life. He was full of the sheen and the light and enlightenment of life, and he gave not only in terms of his literature, but also as a father, as a social figure, and as a friend, as a Kashmiri, who never compromised in the diminishing the quality of Kashmiri, who used Kashmiri in its chaste, indigenous narrative, and who will be remembered in our hearts for times to come. Because what remains at the end, what remains in the Shruti, what moves on from centuries to centuries, is the essence of the great poetry, essence of the great thought that Masarat held in his lifetime. Thank you very much. And before I go, Ghalib couplet, I'm a Ghalib fan. Very simple, very popular one. ये न थी हमारी किस्मत कि विसाल यार होता, अगर और जीते रहते यही इंतजार होता. Thank you very much. Meet you next week with another wonderful program of Sheetalnath Conversations, another historic program. It was great pleasure to see all of you glued into today's program. I hope you must have all been enlightened and you must have got a lot of information about Masarat Saab. Thank you very much and good night.